Hey folks, Randy Newberg here with another episode of Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio. I want to thank those of you who have continued to follow our podcast. Last episode we went a little unfiltered, and if my emails are reflective of what my now current subscribership is, seems as though we've lost a few people, or at least they threatened, because they said I was too biased, too partisan, picking on whatever. And if you listen to that podcast, excuse me, I'd advocated that the public land issue, and it's becoming political football of, well, not just public lands, but conservation, has become political football in the last 20 years. And I advocated a strategy of how we could maybe change the course in which that issue is headed, try to get it out of the political arena. And what I've found is there are groups of people that when you talk about how stupid one side is, say, for dumb gun control laws, and you advocate that you should punish those purveyors of stupid gun control laws, you're considered a genius and a good guy. But yet, if you advocate an independent thought as it relates to hunting, fishing, public lands, access, conservation, and that happens to be an idea or a strategy pointed towards the other side, now all of a sudden you've lost your mind, you're a communist, you're a whatever. So for those of you who feel inclined to write such hot love letters, I call, in my CPA life, we call IRS letters, we call them love letters because they're never lovely. So some of these emails were what I'd call in the same category of lovely. Save yourself the keystrokes, folks. I'm not the least bit inclined to change my positions that I'm I'll call it, and you've heard me say it many times, I'm a huge supporter of anyone who supports hunting, fishing, and public access, and I'll be a huge opponent to anyone who doesn't support hunting, fishing, and public access. So, with that out of the way, a little clarification there, I guess. We're not going to be unfiltered today. Today we have a really cool guest. I've tried to get him as a solo guest on the podcast for the better part of 2 years, but he's really busy, and I get that, running a business. But the other is he's a very accomplished hunter, and I don't know if this is, I'm kind of putting words in his mouth here, but I have the sense that he just wants to be looked at as just an average person who's lucked out and had some opportunities to hunt through drawing tags, through other stuff. And so I'm very happy that he's going to talk to us today. His name is Jim Winjum. He is the founder of Kenetrek Boots. But before we get to that, I probably ought to tell you which wonderful companies are making it possible that you can hear these discussions. And there's a reason we call it Leupold's Hunt Talk Radio, is because most everything I do is title sponsored by Leupold. They are such huge supporters of the public lands, of conservation, of hunting, you name it. Leupold wants to be part of it if it's some platform, some media that is trying to promote a better image, advocating for hunting, access, public lands, all that. And one of the things we're doing this year with them, and if you go out to their website, they just launched it. I'm renting a llama this year called Marcus, and Leupold named him Marcus because it's this whole public campaign about public lands. And Leupold said, Randy, we want this llama to go with you everywhere you go that you could feasibly use a llama, and we want you to tell stories about the public lands that you're hunting. So with Bo Beatty, Bo is the owner of Wilderness Ridge Trail Llamas down in Idaho. Great place to rent your llamas. In fact, if you might be too late this year, his llamas are in such demand, you're probably too late, but worth the call. With Bo and Leupold and Onyx, we're going to go around the West with these llamas, hunting public lands, telling you stories about those public lands that we're hunting, about how they became public lands, how they're used as public lands, important features, reasons why it's worth advocating for those lands. So it's a unique way of telling a story about public lands that Leupold came up with, and I hope you follow along. It's out on their website right now, also out on all their social media channels of Facebook and Instagram. Which brings me to Onyx. They're partnering with Leupold on this whole public lands story that we're telling. And Onyx also is helping us distribute what we call our e-scouting for public land elk series. Right now, every Monday, we're releasing a new episode. I think we've got 12 total episodes about how we do our e-scouting or cyber scouting or desk scouting, whatever you want to call it, for an elk hunt that is 1,000 miles away. And it's taken a lot of videos to lay down all the fundamental pieces of what goes into it. So by the time this podcast drops, I think we'll probably be close to episode 9 or 10. But the great folks at Onyx, you'll see if you watch any of those videos or watched any of our content in the past, you know why it is that I'm such a big fan of their product. It's revolutionized how I hunt. And for those of you listening, if you want to save 20% on their app products, go to onxmaps.com and use promo code RANDY, and you're going to save 20% off that purchase. And then, excuse me, got something in my throat this morning. Maybe I haven't had enough coffee. Orion Coolers, we're about ready to embark on a new season here. And I will get to know my Orion Coolers even better because we will spend days after week after week living out of those coolers. We'll be using them to keep everything cold when we're there, on our way there. And then when we fill tags, we'll be using them to keep all of our meat from spoiling while we travel to get it home. And just amazing coolers. If you want to buy one, go out to orioncoolers.com. And when you buy one, use promo code RANDY, and they'll throw in a really cool coffee tumbler for you. And you'll have the best cooler I know of. And last is gohunt.com. Right now, they're running a special where it's a 30-day free trial where if you are interested in this service that you hear us talk about, how we're doing all of our research for tag drawings, for applications, and then once we draw the tags, how we do so much research about the unit, moisture patterns, all kinds of stuff. It's amazing how much information is accumulated in one place. I mean, not having to go to 10 different websites or 20 different websites. It's right there at your fingertips. If you want that 30-day free trial, now's your chance to do it. You'll get to look at the entire insider service. This isn't just like a superficial peek behind the curtains. This is jump right in the pool and get to use every bit of it for 30 days. Go to gohunt.com/Randy. And when you do that, you'll see why it's such an important part of what we do. So with all that out of the way, I'm going to hit the button here. And in the room with me is, like I said, Jim Winjum, founder of Kenetrek Boots. And he's got his right-hand guy, Wyatt, here. But he's being... I guess you can't call it camera shy. He's just sitting here and he's giving me kind of the no, I don't want to be on the podcast look. So I guess heck with him. He can just sit here and keep us honest. And good luck with that, Wyatt. Keeping me honest is is definitely going to be a project. And Jim and I are going to talk boots, talk hunting, give you hopefully a lighthearted conversation. And the part of that is that with hunting season coming up just around the corner, I hope everybody is out there practicing, scouting, hiking, doing the things to get ready for season. And I hope everyone understands that hunting is about having fun, about doing the things that are important to you. And I think the next few podcasts you're going to hear from us are in that vein. Nothing but let's go have fun. And hope you all have a good season. Here is Jim. Well, folks, I told you that we were going to have a guest today that I asked him how he got into the business he did, and he said that he had the curse of being born with the worst feet in the world, and that didn't fit very well with his hunting passion, which then became a sheep hunting addiction. Jim Winjum, president, founder, chief, cook, bottle washer, everything else at Kenetrek Boots. Did I miss any titles there, Jim?
No, I don't think so. That's plenty.
That's plenty? All right. So you told me that you have like the worst feet in the world, and that when you do that and you hunt a lot, it causes you to think there's got to be a better way.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, like my feet they've been described as a loose bag of bones. So long, skinny, low volume, no padding, prone to blisters. The only thing is my feet don't sweat a lot, so that I guess that's one benefit.
So they don't get cold as easy.
Yeah, and they don't blister up as bad as they could, you know. I mean, if your feet are wet, you know, they tend to form blisters a lot quicker. So.
Yeah. So I'd asked you if your passion for hunting brought you into boots or if your passion for boots brought you into hunting. It sounds like you were forced into the boot business just because of your feet, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, when you're, you know, I mean, like I say, we use our opening, you know, to our catalog, our little letter, our little company story, and, you know, talking about a sheep hunt that we did in, I think that was 2002, I guess it was. And it was just brutal. Like it was a hunt, epic hunt. I mean, I'm super lucky drawing tags, but I'm not lucky necessarily killing animals. A lot of my kills come the day after the last day, right? Like I tend to maximize my experience in the mountains. So unfortunately, it was one of those hunts, and we actually couldn't find sheep, had weather delays, and yada, yada, yada. Got moved 3 times, and one quick funny story, the guides are notorious liars. You know, I mean, they're just bad. Like we had one guide and he says...
You sure you're not talking about my family?
Could be. Anyway, this guide says at one time, his name was Cam Sadam, and he says to me, yeah, we're going to go, I mean, we've got full packs, you know, and when we're moving, that was a total backpack hunt with Arctic Red for doll sheep, and he says, we're going to just go over on the other side of the mountain. I said, how far is that? I'm trying to gauge, you know, like how bad is this? Is it going to be tough, you know? He says, it's only about 7 miles. I'm like, 7 miles? I can do that. That's great. You know, no problem. So load them up, 80-pound packs. Here we go. Up around, we walk all the way up the valley, up over this pass that's just, I mean, beautiful, but just punishing. Up over the pass, we come over the other side and come down to actually onto the Arctic Red River, and he goes, uh-oh. And this is after, it took 2 days, right? So
wow.
It was a little longer than 7 miles, right? By my calculation, it was about 22. Anyway, he says, he looks down and he says, uh-oh, the river has flooded the place that he planned on landing, you know, because he thought, well, the outfitter could come and pick us up at a different spot. Yeah. Well, it's flooded. He goes, maybe we can find, a different spot to land, you know, and cut some willows and whatever. I said, give me a spoon and I'll dig a runway. It was brutal. But then we got over there and he pulls out his GPS and he goes, see, I told you, only 7 miles. He's over the mountain, you know.
Right, as the crow flies.
Yeah. Just awful.
So that was hard on your feet?
Oh, man. Yeah, just brutal. That whole hunt was. And like I say, we got moved and then I think we ended up doing a 20-mile day, the day that I killed my ram, and then you're coming out of there and you're just wet. I mean, we had 2 major river crossings and raining all day long. And Well, you know what that's like. It's pretty
Miserable.
demoralizing,
Yeah.
and then you don't really have a choice. I mean, it's not like, if you're in the driving pouring rain and you're 10 miles and 2,000 feet from camp. It's like you can't really stop and build a fire and change your socks.
Right.
You're committed. You got to get back to camp.
Yeah.
I think we got back on that hunt at like 1:30 in the morning or something. It was just brutal.
Huh. So was that the inspiration that
That was part of it, yeah. I was just like, oh my gosh, I got to do something different. And I had good boots at the time. They just didn't, they didn't treat my feet as tenderly as they could, I guess I would say. So that kind of has motivated me with design all the way along.
So that hunt was in 2002?
Yeah.
And you started Kenetrek in
2005.
So it took 3 years for your feet to recover?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was definitely a motivator, no question.
Huh. Well, I think a lot of people just figure boots are boots.
Oh, yeah. Well, and there's some people, in all honesty, there's some people that have what I call caveman feet, right?
Yeah.
They're fairly plump and they're fat and they're well padded and they don't even, they talk about blisters. They're like, what? What are you talking about, a blister? Never had a blister in my life.
I'm
seriously.
Yeah, my wife calls my feet. My wife says I have Fred Flintstone
That's
feet.
exactly it. You don't understand what a gift that is. To have that, big padded. And I'm sure you get a little tired and stuff, but it's like, just plodding along. It's like, I'm fine.
I could probably grab the stiffest pair of boots you have and just go hunting in them.
You'd be fine.
And be fine if they're fit properly.
Yeah.
And but I don't know. I often wondered, is there some kind of secret sauce to fitting boots properly? Because the first time, I think I bought my first pair of boots from Kenetrek in like 2006. I mean, my old...
That's early on.
Yeah, my old 400s would be a museum piece for you guys. And I put them on. I never broke them in. It's like, opening day elk season's tomorrow, man. I'm going. And I'm lucky. I never had a problem with them.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm the exception more than the norm.
I think so. And you just have to recognize that, like I say, a lot of times hunting buddies get together and they're like, I'm using this boot and it's the greatest thing in the world. And you're crazy if you don't use that, but everybody's completely different. So what works for one, doesn't necessarily work for the other.
Yeah.
And that's why, we've tried to really expand our line in widths, in different styles, in fit, performance, stiffness. We've really got a variety of boots that we can, I can't say that we can fit for certain everybody, but we've definitely increased the percentage of people that we can fit. We're like the only boot company in the hunting space that offers a true narrow, medium, and wide in our most popular sizes.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is, for a company our size, that's a very expensive proposition to do that. It's the inventory, it's the last, it's all of the cuttings, the patterns all have to be redone, and that creates different dyes, cutting dyes. And it's a very expensive proposition to do that.
Yeah.
But again, I'm that guy, right? I would come in at a 12 narrow. And
12 narrow?
Yeah.
Wow.
Nobody else. Yeah. Nobody has that, right? So we offer a lot of narrow boots, but we probably don't make anybody out of them at all. But there's the few guys that wear them are really, really happy.
Yeah. Huh.
But
well, you've started. I don't know. Was there a lot of mountain hunting boots before Kenetrek, or was it just?
There was more mountaineering boots.
Yeah.
And so really, if you think about our, when we're talking about our, quote unquote mountain boots, that would be more of a European descendant.
Yeah.
And those were all mountaineering boots. And so they would really call these lighter, more flexible boots kind of an approach boot. And so you would, in the old days, you would use that as an approach, like a casual trekking boot, up to where you put on your very stiff crampon compatible boots, that would require perhaps ice climbing and roped up, true mountaineering.
Yeah.
And so what we, not just us, but us and several other companies recognize kind of at the same time is that, a lot of these crazy mountain hunters are doing things that are more approaching that, the backcountry wilderness, type hunting experience where you're, dropped off and you're in a backpack, and, you're a lot more successful if you can go 100 miles on one of those hunts than you are if you're limiting yourself to 10 miles.
Right.
And so pretty quickly people realize that top-end mountaineering equipment really has some benefits in the mountain hunting space.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a number of people who look at me like I've lost my mind because I don't leave my truck without my trekking poles.
Yes.
I mean, just that little simple tool of adaptation.
It's unbelievable,
Yeah. I in the summer when I'm training for my hikes, I don't use my trekking poles.
Right.
But then when I'm out hunting, I use them, and it's like, wow, I'm in better shape than I thought I was.
Yeah.
When really, I'm never in good shape because I drive a desk for a living
me too.
and eat way too much Dairy Queen. But
me too.
That's it's interesting how much of the hunting world, at least the higher end gear, has been adaptations from other places. I mean, we see it in optics,
for
boots, in clothing, fabrics. Now you got high-end stuff from a lot of these clothing companies. It wasn't like they went to the hunting industry to look and see where do we get this high-quality stuff.
Right.
They were looking at a lot of mountaineering. And
mountaineering is really the heart and soul of it. I mean, because it seems like they lead. Even some of the, like we've done, like the OR show and some of those outdoor retailer and even some of the military guys go there to pick up innovation, because you just walk through that show and you're just like, that is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. I found this and I found that. And, I mean, so that innovation, innovation in America is alive and well. I mean, that is one of the things that I think we're the very best at is innovation.
Yeah. So how hard is it to find places and people who know how to make the quality of boot that you're looking for at the amount, the number of boots that you guys
It's very difficult. I mean, that it's not that they don't have the ability, it's do they want to do it? Okay. And so those two things are completely different. You think about everybody that has their own business. Your business is full. You're busy. You're going all the time, and it's kind of defined. So then, so you're making the picture of donut shop or of cookies. You're baking cookies, and you have this certain recipe, and somebody comes up and says, "You could make the greatest cotton candy in the world." That guy's going to look at you like, "I don't have time for cotton candy. I'm making the chocolate chip cookies," right? I mean, so that's obviously an oversimplified example, but you run into that, and even the factories that we've dealt with, like they're third, fourth generation, on the mountain boots, Italian factories. I mean, they seriously, like I wasn't even born, when the grandfather is working like crazy, building those old super heavy duty stiff mountaineering boots, right? Yeah. So he knows a lot, and all of a sudden here comes this upstart, American, entrepreneur. And he says, hey, this would be better if you did it this way. You can imagine that goes over like a lead balloon. He's like, what are you talking about? But anyway, so there's a lot of diplomacy that goes on there too. And just, kind of a reciprocal kindness that, to have to understand that, have an understanding for what they do and what they bring to the table and their experience. And, if you come in, as the general and, start not that I do that too, but you shouldn't, right? You need to be a little kinder and a little, softer and more diplomatic there. And like I say, appreciative of their skills and talents, and then just gently move, to where you want to go, right? So there's a lot to it. But then you also have to find factories that are the right size. Because if you go to a factory, say, that produces 10,000 pair of boots a day, and they're full, what is their motivation to talk to you?
To help you,
I mean, to go into because product development is very expensive.
Yeah.
And like I always say, if you're on the cutting edge, there's a lot of bleeding that occurs on the cutting edge, right? It can be a tough place to be. A lot of times it's good to stay 2 or 3 years back, right? I sometimes envy our competitors, that are kind of coming, because it's really easy to go wait for a product to be out for 3 years and then say, oh yeah, I'm going to do that.
Right, yeah, let someone else do the bleeding.
Oh yeah, it can be tough.
Huh.
But you have to find factories that are the right size, that it makes sense. And obviously the quality control has to be there as well.
Yeah. So
it's challenging, to find the right fit.
Yeah. So when someone's buying a boot, and again, like we said earlier, I might be lucky. I've got just these feet that, oh yeah, okay, works great. Is it often the size fitting? Is it because you talk to people and they have just this amazing experience with a boot, and then the same person might have a terrible experience with a different boot. Is it because of how they got sized? Is it the boot platform? It can be
both. It can be both, and it can be the design. A different style. Like even within our boot, they kind of all look similar, but even within that platform, there's all kinds of variations.
Really?
Because it'll change the fit. Like if you even change the height of a boot, it'll change the fit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things going on there, and then obviously the primary initial fitting of the boot to make certain that you have the proper fitting sequence that goes on. That's very important as well.
Yeah, I see you're really and I love them. They're my daily work. Clothing.
My socks.
socks.
Yeah.
So in the last few years, you've really gotten into socks. Has that eliminated some of the problems you encounter? Because now you know if people are using your socks, sorry folks, I hit the
wrong button.
I'm crossing some wires here. I guess it's really, you can say I got my wires crossed if you hear that, folks. But
on the socks, the whole reason for that is that, like when you fit a boot, even though we have narrow, medium, and wide, it's like I always describe it as a personal fit recipe. And so especially when we're talking about mountain boots, because it isn't necessarily temperature protection you're looking for performance.
Yeah.
And so again, you want to stabilize your foot, make that boot as snug as possible, and eliminate movement inside of the boot. And so one of the last things that you can do once you determine that you've got the proper length, you've got the proper width, you've got the correct footbed, that fits your arch, right, your heel cup, all of that, then the last thing to do is to determine the thickness of the sock. And so a lot of times people think, well, if I'll wear a heavier sock, when it's colder. That really, especially in a performance boot, that doesn't really work well, because what you do is you make the boot too tight. You're gonna actually make it colder, because you're gonna cut off, you're gonna crush the insulation and cut off circulation to your feet.
Yeah.
And so that can be problematic. So a lot of times people look at me funny when I tell them, no, you want to come up with this recipe, and then I don't care if it's 90 degrees or 20 degrees. You're looking for this mountain boot to be in a performance category, and so you really want the fit to be precise no matter what the weather is outside.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a different way to think. So one of the things we did is we came up with a variety of really good quality socks, but different thicknesses. Mm-hmm. So that you could just allow for the perfect snugness in the fit, which would, eliminate motion and just maximize the comfort and the performance of the boot.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what got us into the socks as well. So,
yeah. Well, whoever designed is it called Canada or Canadian?
Canada, yeah.
Whoever designed that should be president.
of the United States?
Yes. Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
That's like the best.
It's a beautiful sock. There's no question.
Yeah. You probably don't want to know this, but I have a lot of your inventory in my sock drawer.
If we're running short, we'll call
me. But I wear them all the time. Yeah. And it doesn't matter the temperature.
Right.
That's the only sock I really wear in my mountain extremes. Yeah. It's perfect. I wear my down insulated Mountain Extremes when it's down into the teens.
Yeah.
Never have a problem.
Yeah.
And I'll wear it when it's 50 and 60 degrees. Same setup.
Yeah.
And so
that's the way to do it. Like, so for me, because again, I have a different foot, right? And we're two ends of the spectrum. I actually wear our Ultimate Liner and our Alaska sock, which is the same sock as the Canada, just thicker.
Yeah.
And so there's no way you could fit that in there.
No.
It would be, you'd have no blood flow to your feet.
Right.
But for me, that's the absolute perfect fit, and it works superbly well.
Huh. A lot of people, if you hear a complaint about a user of a boot, a lot of times it's, I get blisters from this or I get blisters from that. You've probably become a blister expert between all of your days running the mountains with your bag of bone feet, as you call them, plus building boots.
Right.
So for the listener, if there's like top 1, 2, or 3 things that they can do to eliminate or reduce blisters, short of getting new feet.
Unfortunately, you only get one set, so you kind of got to learn to work with what you got.
Yeah, but, and when you were talking about that liner, is that one of the first?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally, we still kind of recommend. I mean, although I must confess I don't always wear a liner, but again, I'm talking about a performance situation where you're trying to absolutely, because I'm like anybody else, and you get lazy, and sometimes I don't even lace my boots up, right? If you're just running out to the mailbox or whatever, you're not always in that environment where you're, uneven ground and really trying to maximize performance. When you're doing that, I still recommend a liner sock and an over sock. And the theory there is that liner sock fits very closely to the skin, so it thereby reduces the potential of wrinkles. Yeah. Always to the liner tends to stick a little bit, so then that'll keep your over sock, which is a higher wool blend, from sliding down, right? So a lot of times people have that, or their socks, they're always trying to pull their socks up. So, I mean, you should be able to set up a system where you get dressed in the morning and maybe you have to adjust one time through the day. Rigorous mountain hunting. Yeah. And that takes some forethought, and you really have to come up with that formula. But so the liner sock is a good idea. The snug fit, the volume of the sock, so the weight of that over sock is really important. And like I say, we have a variety of different socks. There's a lot of other socks out there too, but you want to look for a blended sock that has a really good arch brace and a good heel pocket, that just fits your foot extremely well and stays in place, and has the right, not just synthetic, it has the right wool fibers to wick moisture away from your skin. Yeah. Because, again, the biggest problem you run into is, and I feel bad, some guys have really sweaty feet. Yeah. And they just perspire a lot. And if your skin is wet, you have about a 10 times higher chance of getting blisters than you do if your skin is dry.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's kind of like an electricity thing, how you... the electrical resistance of your skin goes down if you the whole in a bathroom environment you plug in and get zapped. It's real dangerous. Well, that's because the electrical resistance of your skin goes down. Okay. When it's wet. Well, same thing. Your blister resistance goes down as well. Also, thermal properties go down. So you tend to get colder. Yeah. So all those things come into play. So even some of those guys, like I tell people, use an antiperspirant. Same thing you use under your arms, right? I mean, use some type of moisture.
I never would have thought of that.
Yeah. Foot powder or a spray. You can dramatically reduce the amount of perspiration. I'm not saying that you continually bathe your feet in that, but if you're in that environment, where it's hot and that, you are one of those guys who are going to perspire a lot, it definitely helps.
Yeah. Well, growing up in northern Minnesota, where it's usually pretty frigid. One thing you're taught as a little kid is you never put your like if you're going ice fishing or you're going out in the woods to work, you wear a different sock and a different boot or shoe to where you're going. And at the last minute, you change. Yeah. So you don't get that perspiration, that blocking in all that moisture because as quick as you head out, you're at a disadvantage.
Right.
And
Well, it's like when you're sitting in a tree stand and you're trying to, dress for, for a below zero hunt, where you're totally motionless. Well, you'd be crazy to wear all of your clothes to the tree.
Right.
Hike up a big hill and you're just sweating like crazy. Then climb up in your tree. It's like, see how long you last. That's not going to work very well.
Yeah. So I've come up with my own little strategies and ideas of how I manage just cold feet, and maybe I'm one of those. I do tell people I think I'm one of those lucky people that just don't get cold feet and cold fingers.
You are lucky there too. It kind of goes with that caveman foot thing.
The flip side of that is my son has a condition called Raynaud's syndrome. It's where the blood flow to your extremities, like your fingers and toes, instantly
closes.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's an autoimmune thing, but we'll go duck hunting and he'll pull his hand out of his glove or mitten and his fingers are just purple.
Really?
And then when it starts getting warm, it just creates all kinds of burning kind of pain, like
falling asleep. Yeah. Sure.
And so I'm not sure how he ended up with that. I blame my wife for that kind of DNA.
Sure, that never came from you, right?
No, it didn't come from me. I'm a big squarehead from the Scandinavian world. But so as far as boots, I think about how much energy your body has to expand if you don't have proper support.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think people give that enough credit.
No.
A good boot saves you a lot of energy, allows you to hunt harder, further, especially in the mountains when you're carrying heavy loads. Mm-hmm. That's not like being on the treadmill. That's not like being on the stair stepper.
No.
Stair steppers, even though you're climbing, there's pretty predictable pattern to where what foot bears the weight, and then it's shifting. Right. In a mountain, it's never like that.
Yeah, and then I'd even say it, people don't understand the difference between being on a trail and being off trail.
Yeah.
Right? Like, those sheep hunts, some of those northern sheep hunts where you're going up a different drainage every day, and you can walk out in the swamp for a while that has the big tussocks, that you got to do the kind of weird goose step to get over them. Or, you just look away for a second, boom, down you go, right? Or then you can go play in the shale for a while, right? Where you take a step and you go back a half a step, and you're thinking, you get there and you go, oh, this is going to be better than those darn tussocks, But then you go on the shale for a while, you're like, those tussocks weren't that bad. And then you go the third thing and you're boulder hopping up a stream, right?
Yeah.
Big round bowling balls that you're walking on. And you're thinking, oh, at first this is great. And then after a while, it's like, oh, give me some shale. This is just terrible. But yeah, those environments are just unforgiving. And you're right, you do lose a ton of energy on balance. And that's really the difference with your trekking poles.
Yeah.
Is it gives you that third point of contact at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing how much energy you spend keeping your balance.
Yeah, especially when you are top heavy with a 50, 60, 80 pound pack.
I thought you were saying when you're top heavy in your 50s.
Oh, well, that too. I'm getting more top heavy every year. But I was pretty impressed. I went in for my annual physical the other day, and I weighed 206 pounds.
Wow.
When I graduated from high school, I only weighed 198. So
that's pretty good.
Well, let's look at it this way though. It's not like the weight is in the right place or the right firmness.
Yeah, if you run those numbers and you figure you're losing 1% of muscle mass a year, right? You're pretty much a Play-Doh buddy.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like
all the muscles are gone.
Pillsbury Doughboy for me, man. I'm an accountant. I just accept my fate in life. So, but I admire those people who can go to the gym every day. But I'm not one of them. I would rather get jabbed in the eye with a hot poker 3 times a day as to have to go to a gym. So
just think how easy the balancing is.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But so all this boot talk, Folks, I've known Jim for a long time, and he's a very understated guy. You need to come to the Kenetrek headquarters if you ever get a chance. Now with the new showroom and everything. What's the address out here, Jim?
96 North Star Lane.
96 North Star Lane. So if you're ever in the Bozeman area, I would suggest you come out towards what they call Four Corners, go slightly north towards Belgrade, and then hang the first left at the first stoplight, and you'll see Kenetrek back there. There's some really cool stories to be told in those animals out there in the showroom, Jim.
Yeah, there's like a lifetime of achievement there. It's amazing. It's mine and my partner in the boot company, Bob Scher. And
Lucky Bob.
Lucky Bob, exactly.
Yeah.
He's as lucky as I am, I mean, pretty much.
Yeah, full disclosure, folks, if you ever see Bob or Jim putting raffle tickets in a bucket, move on to the next bucket.
Yeah.
Every time I'm at an event and I see Jim, I'm like, you got any tickets in there? If he says no, then I'll play the game. If he says, yeah, I bought one ticket, I'm like, no, he's going to win. So when Jim says he and Bob are lucky.
We were really lucky, yeah, no question.
So, but when did you start this path of luckiness? When did you start applying? I mean, a good friend we both know, Kurt Reardon. Kurt says, Randy, you carpet bomb the West with applications. And that's a good way to say it. Well, you started that.
I did way back, yeah, in the late 80s, actually. Went to some shows and went to the sheep show in particular and wandered around there and looked at all the, it was just like a kid in a candy store looking at all the life-size sheep mounts. And I'm like, you mean if I didn't have any money. I just came out of school, and I'm thinking, there's no way I could ever go on these hunts, these guided hunts. But I'm saying, you mean if I apply and I draw the tag, I can just come to your state and hunt? And they're like, yep, you draw the tag, it's all yours. I don't have to have an outfitter. They're like, nope, you can do it on your own. I'm like, well, that sounded really appealing to me. So I applied for a long time.
Yeah.
And then got really, really lucky.
Yeah. What year was it that you got
2004, I drew 2 desert sheep tags.
As a non-resident?
As a non-resident, yeah. Arizona and Nevada both.
In the same year?
Same year, yeah. Yeah, it was absolutely crazy.
I know you're really good at math, but have you ever sat down and calculated what astronomical...
it's in the 1 in 100 and some thousand. I mean, it's crazy, crazy odds. But, that's factoring in, bonus points and non-resident, discrimination, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it all it's kind of hard to get a true number there, but it's astronomical.
So if a person didn't have the sheep bug before that, you'd have a serious sheep bug if you drew 2 desert sheep tags.
Yeah, that was kind of a challenge. And then the problem is, I never really set out to achieve the, what they call the Grand Slam, all the 4 North American sheep species. I never really set out to do that. I suppose some people do, but that just seemed like, like saying, I want to be an astronaut and go to the moon, I mean, it's just that you can't reach that. But then all of a sudden that happened, and, I had drawn a Montana bighorn.
Oh, really? When did you draw a Montana bighorn?
2 Montana bighorns, actually, over the course of the years, right? And so...
Okay, folks, we need to start the Jim Winjum I Don't Like You Club. You've drawn 2 Montana bighorn.
Yeah, 2 Montana bighorn.
Wow.
Yeah. And so then, all of a sudden you have, you've got 3, because I went and did that Northwest Territories doll sheep hunt and was successful there as well. So then all of a sudden you've got 3 of the 4. Well, then you're kind of thinking, and that's when the stone sheep prices went through the ceiling.
Oh, really?
They went up, and I'm just like, there's no way this poor boot guy is ever going to be able to go stone sheep hunting, because they don't give those away at a raffle. You can't draw a tag.
Right.
So I'm like, I turned to my partner Bob at the sheep show again, and I said, my only chance to get a Grand Slam is I got to win that thing. And so we put together as many funds as we could and went and tried to charm the ticket girls as much as we possibly could for a better deal. They took pity on us. We pulled together our tags and everything and put them in a big lump deal. And I ended up winning not 1, but 2 sheep hunts out of I don't know what they had, 6 or 8 or something. 2 of them out of that's phenomenal.
Back to my point, folks. If you go to the Wild Sheep Convention in Reno next February, just keep an eye on Jim and Bob and see where they're putting their tags and their raffle tickets. Put yours somewhere else. Support sheep, but just don't get in a competition with these guys. So you do 2 sheep hunts at one event.
2 at one, yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, and so then that allowed me to go on, a crazy expedition and complete my rifle Grand Slam.
Yeah.
And then so now I've kind of gone around and going after what else are you going to do? You don't just retire, right? You keep going. So now I have 3 of the 4 with a bow as well.
Okay.
And so that's that's what I'm going on Wednesday to try attempt. I try not to get my hopes up too much because it's probably only about a 20-30% chance, but sheep and bow hunting doesn't mix either.
I was wondering that because everyone tells me, and this is the audience knows that next week I leave for Alaska and I'm doing Sitka blacktail, leaving from there, and then I'm going on. It's the first time I'll have ever hunted sheep where I'm the tag holder. So I'm doing all this research, talking to all these people, and everyone's like, oh, those mountain sheep, they have eyes like you can't believe. They make antelope look like the walking blind. I'm like, really? Everyone's warning me about this. So then I'm thinking, how do these guys do at archery then if they can see so well?
Yeah, it's not easy. I'll tell you that. They usually just laugh at you. I mean, think about it. As a sheep, everything out there is trying to eat them.
Right.
So where do they go? They go right to the top peaky rocks where they can see everything for miles around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely challenging. No question.
Well, I've tried for 27 years and I've not drawn a Montana sheep tag.
It's right around the corner. I know it's coming.
Well, last summer, so my big thing when I'm buying raffle tickets is Arizona has this super big game raffle.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this. Last summer, I was watching it online as they were posting the results, and I saw that I don't apply for any of them except Arizona antelope because I got an antelope problem. And I kind of turn away from the screen and I come back and it's like the winner's from Montana. Instantly, my eyes attracted to Montana.
Sure.
And then I look at the name. I'm like, Lucky Bob. You are kidding me.
Yeah, I know it.
Your partner Bob drew the Arizona statewide raffle.
He said it was funny. He was really busy and he almost didn't do it, but he kind of has this standing rule. He says he buys 2 tickets for every raffle, right? Because he figures one in case they drop it or screw it up or something, gives him 1 backup. That's it. So he's not a guy, he doesn't stuff the ballot box or anything, you know. I mean, he just 2 tickets. He actually won the Grand Slam Club, the full desert sheep hunt as well.
With 2 tickets?
2 tickets, yep.
I'm going about it all wrong. I'm buying like 20, 30.
Yeah, that's what his theory is. 2 tickets. That way if one gets screwed up, he has an alternate.
Wow.
Well, he's really lucky.
You said that I'm just getting closer and closer every year that I don't draw. I'm that much closer to drawing is kind of what you were implying there.
I was being facetious, yes.
Oh,
I was just totally. Okay. Let me give you the cold, hard truth is you're no closer today than when you started.
That's what I was going to say. Man, you must have different math than I do.
No, it's not good.
Well, I think I'm just going to stick to antelope and elk and deer and stuff. And someday if my ship comes in, I hope I'm ready and old. I'm young enough to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I know. There's just something about sheep nuts that... sheep nuts. That didn't sound very good.
That doesn't sound right.
I ate some sheep nuts at last year. The Backcountry Hunters and Anglers had me at me, Remy Warren, Steve Ranella. We were judges in this cook-off down in Boise in April. And the Arizona group brought Rocky Mountain oysters from Desert Bighorns.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, looking at that, I'm like, all right.
Hope you run out.
Yeah. Well, there was a serving there for all of us. And we all kind of looked at each other. I think Ranella would eat anything. That guy.
I think so too.
But Remy and who else was the other one? Oh, Anthony from Outdoor Life. We kind of looked at each other like on the count of three. And so, yeah, sheep nuts. Let me not say sheep nuts. Sheep fanatics.
The fanatics
are a different breed.
Yeah.
And we're working on a film project. A friend of ours had a desert bighorn tag in Nevada last year. And so we went down and filmed that. And it's going to be a film we're doing for the Wild Sheep Foundation about the craziness of sheep advocates.
Yeah.
In the lower 48, your odds of drawing a sheep tag are less than 1%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, far less. Most places.
Yeah. But you go to a lot of these sheep events or these habitat improvement things or water guzzlers down in these really arid states, and there's all these people there. And I was asking someone, I'm like, how many of these you go to? Oh, I go to all of them.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, yeah, it's just... Isn't it cool to know that you're doing that and these sheep and these whatever are going to benefit? And so the idea is to show that there's no way you can say that the sheep advocates who are doing that volunteer work are doing it for a self-serving reason.
No.
It's just because they love wild things and wild places.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a cool story. Did the math. Only one out of as bad as the odds
You're
are.
a math guy, right?
Yeah, I am those accountant types. Only even though my odds of drawing a sheep tag in Montana are like 1 in 200. The math says that if you take the United States population, only 1 in 50,000 people are a sheep advocate.
Yeah.
That means every sheep advocate's carrying a pretty heavy load.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But so before we get into what the last year has been, I've been following some of your stories.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you've had
you and my wife.
Does your wife even check in with you anymore, Jim?
She's just like, this year is over the top. I'm like, yeah, I know I need to dial it back a little.
Well, yeah, you say that, but are you gonna?
Well, sometimes in order to find out where that line is, you got to cross it.
Exactly.
You drive right by it, at high speed, to be able to determine, that's where it was.
Yeah. There's like, to me, there's two lines. There's like the line where I know I've crossed it, and then there's the or else line.
Yeah, I think I'm over the or else
really?
As well.
I've never ventured into or else territory.
Yeah.
I don't know what or else means. I don't want to find out.
No.
So you're there.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Or I can at least see it from there.
Because you've been to Asia, you've been to the Arctic North Pole, you've been...
Yeah, it's been a crazy year.
And now you're going to...
Back to the Northwest Territories, yeah. Yeah, so it's a crazy year. I don't know. I mean, like you hunt a lot. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I travel a lot. I mean, I go to a lot of shows, during the show circuit and all of that. And, I have that syndrome where you wake up in a hotel and you have no idea where you're at. And, that's very discomforting, to say the least. I have a lot of respect for traveling salespeople that do that all the time for a living. They do. I mean, I
couldn't do it. Yeah.
I need to be a little bit more grounded, I guess, or outside, or where you can see the horizon, not a hotel, that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, looking at this year, I'm pretty sure that my wife looked at the calendar, the big whiteboard I have upstairs, and she just crossed her arms and looked at me and said, "Really?" Because there weren't a lot of gaps in there of when I was going to be home, like 20 days in Alaska. Come home the next morning, I'm on a plane somewhere else for a week. It's like, well, honey, in the off season, we'll go do this or we'll go do that. Right. And she's like, that's what she said. Yeah, right. I've heard that before. But you got any good fun hunts? Well, you're going sheep hunting.
Yeah, so I have big sheep hunt. And then we're actually going to Kansas for white. Well, we didn't actually draw Kansas, but we're going to go to Missouri and hunt whitetails, archery whitetail hunt in November. So that's kind of a different area for me, but that should be fun. And then I'm actually looking forward to just hunting in Montana, this year. And that's the bad thing is you only have so much time, and you take time off to go on these outrageous, travel experiences, and pretty much something has to give. So I ended up eating a whole pile of Montana tags that I never got a chance to really use.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat. I end up traveling to all these places. A lot of times we have guests or sponsors who draw tags, and we want to be there and be part of the experience. And so my Montana hunting usually is what takes it on the chin.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because you can always do that, right? So that's first to go.
Yeah. So, but you drew a Montana goat tag last year. Is that like your fourth goat tag? Or?
That would just be the second.
Do you know someone up at the governor's office, or what's the deal, Jim?
Just lucky.
How many moose tags have you had?
Just a couple.
Just a couple. If you've drawn 2 sheep, 2 moose, and 2 goat, you're the only person I know of personally. Maybe there's some other rare person out there that's drawn 2 of each.
2 good elk tags too. I guess you'd have to throw in there. I drew a guard, back in the heyday. I drew a Gardner bull tag late season, and then also that Breaks elk tag that I was telling you about too. So those are probably. Up there as well.
We're getting to the point where I'm going to retract my statement that you're an understated guy. You've drawn too many tags.
I have drawn a lot of tags. There's no question.
I think we're going to hold a poll out on our forum and see if you should be cut off from applying.
No, but the one I want the most is that bison tag. I cannot draw that bison tag to save my life.
Really? And Jim is sitting in the room right now with me and Wyatt.
Tag holders.
Wyatt, his right-hand guy, is just sitting here taking notes, wondering about what we got to edit out of this podcast. Last year, Wyatt had the bison tag, and in 2013, I had the bison tag. And then, for the sake of full disclosure, I have one of the 2 non-resident archery bison tags in Utah this year.
I applied for that hunt. You took my tag.
Really?
I did. Exactly that hunt.
I was so lucky to get that tag.
I guess.
There were 2 of them, and in Utah, one, if there's 2 tags, one goes to the max point holder, and one is just bonus point kind of draw. And I looked at the results. And there were 3 of us at 19 points, and there was one guy at 21 points. And I'm like, how did the guy at 21 points not draw? Well, the way the order goes in Utah, if you draw deer, elk, or antelope, they do those 3 first. If you draw one of those, you're kicked out of the once-in-a-lifetime draw.
Oh, really?
So the guy must have drawn something for deer, elk, or antelope. So no one applied at 20 points.
So you had a 1 in 3 chance.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I was the 1 out of 3 who got the tag. But on the flip side of that, me and 4 other guys are in the maximum antelope pool.
Yes.
So I'm like, well, I'm drawing antelope this year. I'm going to get kicked out of the once in a lifetime. Well, of the 5 of us, 2 bought a point and 3 of us applied. There were 2 tags. And I'm the one guy who didn't draw the antelope tag, which normally I'd be stomping around complaining about my bad luck.
Bad luck. You drew the bison side. That's great.
Yeah, that was a weird twist of fate there. So now next year there's only 3 of us with maximum antelope points next year. I still have, if everybody applies, I still have a 2 out of 3 chance of drawing.
Do you guys all know each other? Do you send each other fruitcakes at Christmas or something?
Not to my knowledge. I don't know any of them, but good luck to them. I mean, I'm thinking about that. How do you start? I think when I started antelope in Utah, that would have been in like 97 or whatever. There were 52 people at my point level. And so every year,
a little less.
I mean, you got to be pretty good to be the last guy standing out of 52 people.
Well, for one thing, you probably got to be pretty healthy too. Probably a lot of them have passed on, I'm guessing.
Maybe that's my only hope for a tag is one of the 3 guys will tip over next year.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about applying for 50 years, along those lines, I have a friend in Arizona that Brad Remfrey, which I think you maybe have met, but He's, served as the auction chair for many years.
Yep.
And I mean, he just donates and just gives so much to that organization. It's all donation, of his time and everything, and just totally passionate and committed and never drawn a sheep tag. He's like, I don't know what he is, 32 points or some crazy thing. And I just feel so bad for him. I mean, the sheep hunt that I'm going on is the one I actually won at their Arizona banquet. Right, 2 years ago. And so, I came to that banquet, and I, rode in, and just joking, I said, well, of course, it's their biggest prize they've ever given away, And I was down there for a show and went on a Barbary sheep hunt, and I said, well, I'm not going to, skip my sheep hunt to go, but I certainly got to come win that sheep hunt,
No.
And so I went into that room, and there's 600 people there. And you can't really stuff I think they give a little bit of a bump if you're a life member.
Right.
But still, you're basically looking at one or two, tickets in the bucket.
Yeah.
And I texted my wife, and I'm like, so I went to the banquet, and I texted my wife, and I'm like, I can't believe it. I haven't even won a knife. I'm like, nothing. She's like, they give away the sheep hunt yet? And I'm like, no, they won't do that till the end. And Brad was actually up on the stage, and they had a little girl come up, pull the name out of the bucket. And Brad, he's mic'd up, and he looks over his shoulder, and he draws my name, and he goes, son of a... his wife's giving him Brad, you're swearing to the whole entire public, It's like, cut it off. And Chris Tatum was the MC, and he says, well, obviously Brad knows who it is, and he reads the name, and he's like, Jim Winjum. I don't even think Jim's here. Is he here? I'm just like, oh, you caught him. I mean, you joke and say that, but you would never think that was really going to happen.
Right. Oh, man. Well, you might have used up all your luck,
I think
Jim.
so.
I mean, you've used up, your luck, your family's luck, your employees' luck.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Wyatt did pretty good last year. He decided that there was something to do with Kenetrek, so he actually sent his application in a Kenetrek envelope.
There you go.
I think you drew 2 or 3 tags, right?
There you go, folks. Come by Kenetrek. Ask if you can borrow some of their letterhead or some of their envelopes, and mail your application in a Kenetrek envelope. You kind of let that out, Jim. I'm just trying to give people the inside track here. I want all my listeners to draw 2 sheep, 2 moose, 2 goat.
We've got envelopes available for sale, $22 each.
And the $22 goes to your favorite hunting charity, the Jim Winjum hunting charity.
Yeah, the preservation fund.
Yeah. So you drew a Montana goat tag last year. I know where that is because we filmed a hunt up in that same unit a few years earlier, and it's not a pretty place necessarily.
No, it's gnarly. It's ugly for sure. There's a lot of goats there, but it is nasty.
And you were committed to doing it with your bow.
Yeah, because I've actually gotten a couple goats with a rifle, and so I always said, well, if I feel like it's a pretty special animal, pretty special species, so I always thought if I ever got one again, I would commit to either get it with a bow or nothing, and so I decided to do that, and unfortunately we had forest fires, and it went from 95-degree heat and can't see across the basin to 3 feet of snow. And then I thought, well, that won't last. And that was right, because then we got another 3 feet. And so then we got 6 up top, and it was brutal.
Yeah.
And then I had the whole Tajikistan hunt, that was, I had actually Alaska and Tajikistan. So I only had just a short window of time. So I had a lot of pressure, but that hunt was brutal. Yeah,
you ran out of friends willing to help, probably.
Yeah, I did. My partner Bob finally came down, and he says, "Well, I don't think we should stay overnight." He says, he says, "Can we do it in a day?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe it'll be a tough day." And so we actually had bikes, the little electric bikes that were going to ride down a loggy road, and so we could get 2 miles. Well, we got up there in the morning, and there was 3 feet of snow at the start of the road.
Wow.
So obviously the bikes never came out of the truck.
Yeah.
He's like, what do we do now? I said, well, we walk for, 2 miles, and then we climb straight up for, 2.5 miles. It was brutal. Absolutely brutal.
Huh.
As bad as anything I've ever experienced right in my own backyard, kind of crazy.
But you got them.
I did end up getting a goat. It was kind of a gift. We climbed and just sweating, and we stopped by the shop and got crampons. Bob says, I've never worn crampons in my life. I said, you'd have to have crampons because where we're going is brutal.
Really? Wow.
So we had crampons and trekking poles and the whole deal. And we finally got up to it. We'd seen some goats, and we finally got up there, and I don't know if we clicked on rocks or what, but they literally ran out of the basin, spooked so hard, ran all the way to the next drainage. And he looks at me and he says, you couldn't shoot one of those with a rifle. What are you doing? And I threw one of those little tizzy fits. It's not fair. It's not fair. And I'm just like, I totally quit. I'm done. And he's just looking at me like, oh, you're so lame, And he's standing there and he's looking right at me like I am at you, Randy. Yeah. And he looks over my shoulder and he goes, is that a goat? I'm like, where? I'm back in.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, is that the one you ended up shooting?
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of them that were kind of up in this basin, and I was able to get in there and get it done. Luck, total luck.
Well,
and then I get the goat. I get over there. It's like 5:30 or something. Bob comes running over the hill, and he says, "We gotta go now." We're like at 10,000 feet.
Yeah, dark.
3.5 feet of snow, and we got like an hour and a half of light left. It was brutal. Absolutely. I think we got back to the truck about 1 a.m. on that one too. It was really bad.
No thanks.
I'm too old.
Yeah, I think I'm really glad that you didn't have cell service and would have tried to call me because I would have been busy.
Yeah,
I mean, you're a good guy, and I'd like to keep being friends, but you know,
that was rough.
Friends only go so far in that situation, Jim.
Yeah, Bob never talked to me for about 2 weeks after that.
He was petitioning the court for a dissolution of the business marriage.
Right.
Oh gosh. Well, you've been at it here at Kenetrek then. You started this in what? 2005?
2005, yeah.
Wow,
so it's been a while.
Over 13 years. Now.
I look at all those animal mounts out there and I'm like, you know what this tells me? We're old. We've been doing this for a long time.
Well, if you started applying, what'd you tell me, in 1988?
88. Well, I applied in Montana, of course, before that.
Right.
But out of state.
So you've got 30 years of applying in multiple states.
Yeah.
I'm just a downstreamer. I didn't start till 93. No wonder I haven't drawn as many tags as you. I haven't even.
You've drawn a lot of tags.
Yeah, I've been kind of lucky, but it's, part of that is just sticking with it.
It is. Consistency, yeah, for sure.
And I will admit that back when I started, so it would be even more of a reality when you started, there weren't a lot of people doing it.
No.
I mean, I look at units now where it takes 20 points. There were some of those units took 4, 5 points. It's
yeah, that's for sure. And there wasn't the services, there wasn't the information. I remember having to actually write letters to the state fish and game departments and say, hey, can you? And I mean, even the applications, you had to fill them out manually and send them in.
Send a check.
It's way more friendly now.
Right. I remember Arizona used to have to send them all the money.
Yes. I actually got a whatever they call the red stamp of death from, I can't remember if it was Nevada or Arizona, one year that they sent my application back because it arrived a day too early.
No way.
Yes, they had a slot window that they would only allow applicants to come in.
Teach you.
And they didn't send it back to me so I could reapply. They waited till at the end, and then they sent it back and said, you were out of the drawing because your application did not arrive within the window of time that's allocated.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was like, that really stinks.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean, now you almost would have to try to screw it up with all the online applications.
Yeah, it's still possible, but...
Yeah. I mean, none of them ever used to be where you just pay like a $5 application fee. It was like you were rolling out some serious dough.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the closest I think I ever came to divorce was about 1998 when my wife saw how much money I had out in non-resident applications. And I think she thought I was running some sort of front business. Yeah, because all of a sudden... here'd come like $12,000 into the bank account. She's like, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
Those were all my hunting applications. Aren't you glad I didn't draw?
Yeah, right.
She probably thought I had something going on the side. But so you've been doing this a long time, boots a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
You've had to have learned a lot about business, not just boots, but about business to start a business like you did.
Mm-hmm.
Just, was it, all right, I'm just going to do this because I got crappy feet and I want better boots? Or, how long were you thinking about getting into your own boot business?
All I can say is that, when I started, that was probably arrogance of youth. That's what I would say.
The old saying of if you knew what it was going to take, you would have never started.
It's just like, because I worked at Snays before for, had a whole career there. And I thought I pretty much, it was a small enough company and I wore a lot of hats there, so I really, after I came out of college, I feel like I was on the job training for that whole career, and because of the size of the company, I was able to do a lot of different things.
Yep.
And so I, pretty much suffered from a lot of overconfidence at that point because you know what I'm saying? Because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You know what the part you do have, and you're thinking, oh, there can't be that much. I'll just figure that other stuff out. It's like, oh, hello.
Yeah.
There was a lot a lot of learning, and then especially because we started and then the recession started. So you can imagine, for us to go in and say, hey, we've got this new premium, most expensive boot you've ever carried.
Yeah.
Would you like to order, a few dozen? It's like, all the different sporting goods stores and shops, they're trying to fight for their survival and going down like crazy. And they would just look at us like, yeah, it could be the best boot in the world, but we're not.
Yeah.
We're shrinking our inventory, not expanding anything. So it was a tough time. Those were some really challenging years.
Yeah.
Because we started with three of us. There was three founding partners, and what we thought was enough cash to get started, which was woefully inadequate.
Yeah, I did.
And so we just rolled, and we would get the negatives, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Being a CPA, I understand. It's like, what was our losses? And so my joke, early on was, hey, it's okay. We're just getting a run at it to get up the other side, right? We're building momentum down to get up the other side. That was funny for the first couple of years, but then it kind of wore thin.
Yeah, I started our On Your Own Adventures TV show early September of 2008.
Yeah.
Within 3 weeks, the stock market crashed and the world as we knew it.
Yeah. Changed. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I hadn't done any pre-orders for thousands of boots or anything like that. So I was still gonna have a place to go home. I hadn't given the bank a mortgage on my house or anything for that.
Boy, we were, and you're definitely pretty committed, when you sign up for all of that and that debt.
Do you think there's a lot of things that you've learned in a lifetime of hunting that have made it easier to be a business person and persevere?
Yeah, for certain. Like we were talking earlier, it's just you can't complain. You can't complain. It doesn't do you any good.
Exactly.
If you got bad weather, you got, increased competition, you got whatever all the things are that apply to a hunt, or just the difficulties that you encounter. And some hunts are worse than others. Some are just absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
And you never have a chance. And, you can sit down and just, beat your fist on the ground and say, this isn't fair. Yeah. That's business, really. Yeah. In a nutshell, it's the same exact thing.
Yeah. No, for me, I tell people I'm way below average at everything in life other than quitting.
Other than quitting,
yeah.
Exactly.
I quit one thing in my young adult life, and it still lives with me forever. I'm going to my grave regretting that I quit one time.
Really?
And, if I was in, the world of MMA, I'm so bullheaded, I'd die before I'd tap the mat. I wouldn't, but that's just how I am.
Yeah, sure.
And I think that's helped me in the businesses that I've started. And I mean, you think about hunting, you show up, you got your plan it's dark, you're in the tent, you're like, all right, today this is how it's going to be. And quick as you get out of the tent, the wind's blowing from a different direction. The temperatures drop 30 degrees. You know, you dropped your rifle when you leaned it against whatever. Everything goes just like business.
Yep. Yeah, exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have your list of, here's what I'm going to accomplish today, and most days you don't even get to step one, right? it's like train wreck after train wreck, you know? So just figure this out. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Hectic, very hectic.
Yeah. I mean, what other thing do you do when you go out? You know that it's probably going to take 19 failures to have one success.
Right. And you can't quit. That is the key.
Yeah.
You cannot quit.
I mean, hunting I think hunting gives you some perspectives that are really helpful in business.
Yeah, it gives you a wisdom. Like, if you can't quit, don't start.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. No, and I've said this on prior podcasts that because quitting is not an option for me. You think about all the things that enter your mind when you're hunting or whether you're in business. Wow, I could use this as a reason to quit, or I could go do this, or I could do that instead, or I could go hunt. You know, I'm going to wait till next year when it warms up. If you say, I'm not quitting, all of a sudden the remaining options you have are about 3. Mm-hmm. And it's a whole lot easier to deal with 3 options, none of which allow you to quit, than all the other options of why you could come up with some fake excuse about quitting or whatever. And so that's for me anyhow been life experiences of hunting that have been helpful. I think the other thing that most hunters don't appreciate or understand is how when you're out hunting, it's like in business, you're thrown at you every minute is all this information.
Right.
When I'm out hunting, I got to read the wind, the sign, and what the other hunters are doing, what's the animal been doing. I don't think hunters realize how much information they're taking in and making split-second decisions of, got to do this, got to do that. It's
almost subconsciously,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think in the business world, you finally get to a point in the business world where you can't spend 2 days thinking about, well, should we pay the bill today and get the 2% discount, or should we pay it in 2 months and forego the 2% discount? You don't have time to think about that in business. It's like, no, this is what we're doing, we'll live with it.
Yeah.
Often.
They're not always the right decision, just like in hunting, right?
Exactly.
Well, should have done it the other way. I thought I could slide by upwind. I thought I'd be fine. I didn't sweat much.
The old wind. What would be the business equivalent of trying to fool the wind?
Yeah.
Not planning, I guess. You think, I don't got a plan. I don't need to make a plan. We'll just wing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets you far in business. It usually gets you far in debt.
Yeah, no kidding. But we're doing good. I mean, it's like I have to be really thankful for where we're at because, our revenue is up, sales are up. We've got, new designs coming out that are really, because I'm always working on not what we have new stuff this year, but I'm already, pretty deeply involved in next year.
Right. Yeah.
And so, it's encouraging. We've got lots on the go, and, we love our customers. Most of our customers love us. So that's a good thing.
That's really good. Well, I this summer for my hiking, I picked up a pair of, what is the new one? The Mountain Guide.
Yes.
I got to remember that.
Right.
Oh, man. I'm like loving that.
Yeah. That's pretty exciting because we invested a lot of money in our own outsole molds, which, there's not very many companies that would be our size that would do that. What as a CPA, that probably you'd look at that and say, that doesn't pencil. Yeah. What are you thinking? You'll have to sell 1 million pairs of boots to pay that back, But the reason we did it is because, we have that really good K-Talon outsole pattern.
Yep.
That we've used on our Mountain Extreme for years. And then we were using a Vibram unit outsole on the guide boot, the previous guide boot.
Right, which is the stiffer boot.
But the thing is that was a really old design. I mean, that was for one of those old mountaineering style boots, and it was much harder and probably, designed for crampons and just not exactly designed for our market, for what, hunters are doing today. And so I always kind of, wanted to go back and revisit that and kind of do our own, and finally got around to it. And the nice thing is that by developing those molds, it's a one-piece rubber. So, like you think of the construction of the Mountain Extreme, where it has a rubber rand around it, then it has a layer of EVA, and then it has the outsole, right? So it's really a three-part construction. So this basically truncates that down to one piece.
Wow.
And so the adhesion, there's less potential for failure. It's more heat resistant, so because the Mountain Extreme, it's an incredibly, popular boot, but it is heat sensitive. So you can't get that too close to a campfire or anything like that.
Yeah.
So having this new outsole, again, allows us to have a little bit deeper tread, and then it gives us control of the compounding. And so we can make, we call it K73. And so that we came up with that because it's 73 durometers of hardness. So that's the firmness of the rubber.
Okay.
And so, we've been vacillated back and forth, and we found just the perfect, what I believe to be the sweet spot for our customers that are using the boots primarily, off trail, on trail, that type of use, not necessarily pavement.
Yeah.
And so that gives us the luxury that we can manufacture an outsole that doesn't have to work for the world. It works for this fairly narrow group of people.
Gotcha.
And so we can make that boot a little bit softer, whereas the old Vibram one, that I swear that outsole was like Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Like the whole entire boot will be long gone, and the outsole will be pristine, right? At the end of it, like hundreds and hundreds of years from now, it'll be exactly intact, right? Little firm. It's a little hard.
So that's that for me. I'm about ready to embark, living out of the pack for 20 days in Alaska with the new mountain guides.
Nice.
I'm so far. I don't know how many miles I have on them. Probably 40 or 50 miles.
Yeah.
And I haven't had a hot spot. I haven't had anything. And
you should have great traction with that boot, though.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be really great.
Good.
Straight up, straight down, side hill, whatever.
I don't want the straight up, straight down. I want the straight down. I'll leave the straight up to you.
Remember, my responsibility leaves at mid-calf. What happens above that, that's all up to you.
Okay. Well, something tells me that if I could perform as well as that boot does, I'll kill a critter, but the odds are I'm not going to perform that well personally.
Don't forget your trekking pole.
No, I am not. You know what, though? I am so embarrassed. I've had these pair of trekking poles. How do you pronounce it? Leaky or leaky?
Leaky.
Okay. I've got two pair of them. I've had them both for well over 10 years. And the other day I thought, and I'm carrying them. Even though I don't use them, I still carry them in case I start getting tired. I'm running down the trail, kind of bebopping along, and I trip. And I start stumbling, and I go to catch myself, and I put one of the poles between my legs, and you can imagine, I'm doing a cartwheel with my heavy pack kind of giving me the face plant in the middle of the trail. But I wake up, and now I got a big, arc to my aluminum trekking pole. It's like, dang,
not good.
I wanted to hand that down to grandchildren or something.
You can. There's a story with it.
But fortunately, I have 5 backup pairs of trekking poles.
Sure.
My theory is anything that's good, more is gooder.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah, they're invaluable. Ask Bob. From the goat hunt.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jim, I know I'm holding you quite a bit, but I got to ask you. You've hunted multiple continents, so many cool species, so many cool stories that we didn't even get a chance to get to. But I go out to the showroom, and there is this wall of antelope out there. And I've got this antelope problem. And is antelope just like that, where your mind goes back to, this is just pure fun, this is just something?
It is. I mean, coming from Montana, it's antelope, something that we can hunt quite frequently, especially archery hunting antelope. You can pretty much get a tag every year.
Yeah.
and then pursue them all over the state. And so I kind of grew up doing that. I can remember, I look back at some of my older picture, which of course I'll never show Wyatt because they're too embarrassing. But I look back at some of my older pictures, and I actually had green, I mean, this is how old I am, right? Green Army Navy surplus, right? The green Vietnam camo.
BDU type stuff?
Yeah. The green, forest green, right? And I'm out there antelope hunting in the burnt prairie with forest green camo. You can imagine how well that worked. Not very good, but I remember being really hot. I mean, like I actually had one of the first decoys. I think it was Mel Dutton that came up with the first antelope decoy.
Yeah.
I had actually gone, my sister's a teacher, and I had actually taken a picture out of Outdoor Life and drew an antelope and then projected it, with the old projector type thing, and went up and cut one of those out of plywood.
Oh my goodness!
And painted it, and it actually worked. Of course, it was the first decoy any antelope had ever seen, in our area anyway. Huh. And then I also, I remember being really hot in my BDU camouflage, so I took it off and I had a white cotton T-shirt. And I was like, oh, there's a buck. And I dropped down, and kind of just made that little hunched over move. And he looks at me, and I'm like, oh, shoot, he saw me. Lo and behold, here he comes.
Really ran right towards you.
Yeah, that I could recognize that, this decoying thing might work, actually. But yeah, it's been a long evolution of antelope hunting. And Bob, actually, I call him the antelope doctor because he is.
Oh, really?
He is the master. Nobody knows antelope decoying. He's like an antelope psychologist.
Well, I always like to have a hunt or two every year where it's just low pressure.
Fun.
Yeah, fun. Nothing but just absolute pure fun.
Yeah.
And antelope seems to foot that bill.
Oh, I love it too.
A lot.
I love it. We go to Wyoming as much as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely love that.
Yeah, everybody.
Really enjoy it.
Anyone who wants a fun hunt should go hunt pronghorn in Wyoming. Just don't apply where I like to apply.
Your area is probably too tough. There's a lot of areas though that people can draw. Every year, every other year, something like that, and it's just a low impact, wonderful. I mean, you can hunt all day long.
Right. See lots of them.
Oh, it's just wonderful.
Most units have a pretty good chunk of public land, so you're not really.
It's wonderful. I still that kind of is home base for me.
Yeah.
Is antelope. That and archery elk, which is a little bit more physical, but look forward to antelope hunting every year for sure.
I did draw antelope in Wyoming.
Oh, you
this
did?
Year. I didn't know if I would or not. I had 3 points, and I applied in a unit that has some real access challenges.
Yeah.
But, oh well.
Yeah.
I'll figure it out somehow. And so I lucked out and drew. I didn't expect to. So that'll be my just go and have fun. Actually, how I'm doing it is my wife never comes with on any of these trips because she's like, anti-camera. Most people I've lived in Bozeman now for 27 years, and being a CPA in the community and knowing a lot of people, there'll be times I'm walking down the street with my wife and they're like, you are married. Well, yeah. But she's like that bashful, that behind the scenes. But she said, I want to come to Wyoming with you on your antelope hunt.
Really?
Yeah, so her and the dog are coming with, and her and I are going to film it. She said, I'm going to help you film it, but I'm going to be behind the camera. Any footage where I'm in front of the camera, you got to delete. I'm like, all right, whatever.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to it for a lot of reasons. It's just what you talk about. It's absolute nothing but fun.
Yeah.
And it'll be weird to self-film another hunt. I think I've self-filmed about 3 of our episodes, and those are all the crappy ones. And but at least this time, if it doesn't work out, I'll blame my wife.
Yeah.
Not in front of her. But,
sure.
Well, I hope we can continue this sometime. With all you got going on this fall, maybe we should check in again in January.
Yeah.
and compare notes about
how'd it go.
Yeah, whose body aches the most.
Oh, I do want to retire as a sheep hunter, I got to tell you.
You're a year older than me, and you're talking about retiring from sheep hunting, and I'm going on my first sheep hunt. I got too late of a start in it. If I didn't have this antelope problem, though, I probably could have afforded a few sheep hunts along the way, but I don't know. I don't know. When you get certain things in your blood, it's not easy to get rid of them.
No.
You say you're retiring from sheep hunting, I bet you that's a lie.
Yeah, it is, yeah. It is. I mean, I don't know. At some point, I feel like I've taken my share, though. I mean, like I still apply for California bighorn because I've never, been able to hunt that species, but I don't know. Yeah. Well, it does get in your blood, I mean, for sure. But
yeah, well, the one thing that I think you guys and quite a few of the other people I work with, you don't boast or make claim to any of the conservation work that you guys support and fund, and the amount of donations you're asked to give and the amount of cash that you contribute to the causes is significant. And
yeah, it is. I mean, we try to do what we can. But
I know you don't make it part of your marketing pitch because you do it because it's conservation.
We're pretty shameless promoters. There's no question. Are we, Wyatt? Wyatt's like, yeah, we are.
You're not. Relative to some in the industry, you guys are like
we're not as good as they are.
You've not figured out how to leverage your $1 donation for $1,000 worth of exposure. Let's put it that way. And I just bring that up because I like to see the companies that are putting back and giving back. And
for sure.
Their time and their money and helping. I mean, let's look at sheep. How many sheep hunting opportunities would exist without the Wild Sheep Foundation?
Right, exactly.
Not a lot. I mean, it'd get worse and worse every year.
For sure.
And I tell people, like myself, when I complain that I didn't draw a sheep tag this year, it's like, well, how do I put more sheep on the mountain? Well, get out your checkbook, Randy, and head over there to Pronghorn Drive and make another donation to the Wild Sheep Foundation, because the more sheep on the mountain, the better your odds of eventually drawing a sheep tag.
Yeah, for sure.
So, well, you got any final words of advice you want to give the world, Jim?
Give the world?
Yeah, any marital advice? I mean, how long you been married?
Quite a few years. I should know that one right off the top of my head.
Jim was like, gee, you didn't tell me you were going to ask that question. Like in the 20 to 25, the 25 to 30.
Yeah, I think it's in that range. I mean, we've been together so long. I told it's funny that you asked that because my wife just, that came up the other day, and I turned to her and tried to be all, smooth, and I said, I can't remember my life before you, honey.
There you go.
She's like, oh, you're so bad.
If any of you borrow that line, you owe Jim a royalty on that one. That is smooth, Jim. When your wife asks what anniversary, I don't know. I can't remember. There was no life before you.
Before you.
Oh, God.
Nice thing is it works over and over.
Sooner or later, though, she's going to realize that you just forgot. Maybe she'll listen to this podcast and we'll rat you out that you just can't remember.
I'm sure.
Well, I really appreciate it. Keep making great boots.
Oh, yeah. We for sure will do that.
Yeah, and I'll keep using them, and when I don't shoot anything, I'll keep blaming you for me not shooting anything. So.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, have a great season, Jim. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, folks. Till the next time, take care.